This house costs less than a used car. No mortgage, no 30-year loan, no bank breathing down anyone's neck. And it's not a shed or a tent or some sketchy shortcut. It's a real home, built from an ancient technique that's quietly solving one of today's biggest problems. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how. Here's the thing, this isn't some Instagram gimmick. This building method has been around for over 4,000 years. Ancient civilizations used it to build fortresses that are still standing today. One modern version of it was even featured by NASA, endorsed by the United Nations, and picked up one of architecture's most prestigious international awards. And somehow, in the middle of a housing crisis where rent keeps climbing and mortgages feel impossible, almost nobody's talking about it. So why did we forget this? And more importantly, how do you actually build one? We'll get there. First, let's talk about why this matters right now. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real life. Picture a young couple, priced out of every apartment in their city. Rent kept eating half their paycheck, and buying a house felt like a joke. So they did something different. They bought a small piece of land, filled polypropylene bags with dirt from their own backyard, stacked them in circles like ancient builders once did, and compacted each layer by hand. No fancy crew, no specialized machines, just time, patience, and dirt. 8 months later, they had a home, fully paid for, no debt attached to it at all. But here's why stories like this keep happening. Right now, the median home in the US costs around $415,000. The median household income is about $81,000 a year. That means the typical home costs roughly 5 times what the typical family earns. Back in 1980, that number was closer to 3.5 times. Financial experts generally consider housing affordable at 2.5 times income. We're double that today and climbing. For a huge number of people, owning a home isn't a distant dream anymore. It's starting to feel mathematically out of reach. And traditional construction doesn't help. Materials are expensive, labor is expensive, and permits alone can cost more than some people's entire savings. And that gap doesn't just affect your wallet. When housing becomes unreachable, people delay starting families. They move farther from their jobs. They stay in unstable living situations longer than they should. Some give up on the idea of ever owning property at all. Right now, the typical home buyer is spending close to 40% of their income just on housing, well past the 30% line that's long been considered the safe limit. It's not just an economic issue, it's a quality of life issue. And that's exactly why alternative building methods are having a moment right now. People aren't looking for a trend, they're looking for a way out. So let's go back to that ancient method, because this is where it gets interesting. Earthbag construction works by filling long polypropylene bags with compacted earth, stacking them in layers, and using barbed wire between rows for extra grip. Once stacked, the walls get plastered, usually with lime or earthen plaster, which protects them and gives that smooth, sculpted look you've probably seen in photos. The materials are shockingly simple: dirt, bags, wire, and basic tools. That's most of the cost right there. Owner-builders typically spend somewhere between $7 and $50 per square foot on an Earthbag home. Compare that to a conventional stick-built house, which usually runs $150 to $250 per square foot, sometimes more. Because the earth is often sourced right from the building site, material costs stay incredibly low. And these walls aren't fragile. They're incredibly dense, which makes them naturally fire-resistant, bullet-resistant in some builds, and remarkably good at regulating indoor temperature. In hot climates, Earthbag homes stay noticeably cooler. In cold climates, they hold heat far better than a typical wood frame house. This isn't a downgrade from a normal home. In a lot of ways, it's an upgrade. That's actually why humanitarian teams have used this exact technique after earthquakes and floods in places like Haiti. When you need a home that can survive whatever comes next, dirt and bags turn out to be surprisingly hard to beat. Now, if you're thinking about trying this yourself, here's what actually matters. First, location matters more than people expect. You want soil with the right mix of clay and sand. Too much clay and it cracks, too much sand and it won't hold its shape. Most builders test their soil before committing to a site. Second, don't skip the foundation. Earthbag walls are heavy, so a solid gravel-filled trench foundation keeps moisture away and prevents shifting. Third, budget extra time, not just extra money. Compacting each bag by hand takes patience, and rushing this step is where most structural problems start. Fourth, check your local building codes before you start. Some areas require permits for alternative construction methods, and skipping that step can cause serious headaches later. And finally, start small. A lot of successful builders begin with a garden shed or a small studio before attempting a full-sized home. But let's be honest, not every Earthbag project goes smoothly. The most common mistake? Underestimating labor. This method saves money, but it demands time and physical effort. Some builders quit halfway through simply because they didn't plan for how tiring it is. Second mistake, using the wrong soil mix, which leads to walls that crumble under pressure. Third, and this one's sneaky, poor drainage planning. Water pooling near the base of Earthbag walls can slowly weaken them over years. None of these mistakes are deal breakers. They're just things worth knowing before you start, not after. Now, here's something most people never hear about Earthbag homes. Earthbag structures have actually been tested against real disasters, and not just informally. Back in the early 90s, Earthbag domes were put through simulated earthquake, wind, and snow load tests, and they exceeded official building code requirements by double. Then came the real test. In 2015, a massive earthquake hit Nepal, one powerful enough to destroy thousands of conventional buildings. In that same region, dozens of Earthbag structures were left standing without damage. Not because it's trendy, because it works when it matters most. So let's bring this back to that couple from earlier. Remember that couple who built their home for under $15,000? Today they have zero mortgage payments, zero rent, and a home that's more resistant to disasters than most traditional houses in their area. They didn't get lucky. They used a method that's been proven for thousands of years, one that most people simply never learned existed. And that's really the point of this whole video. The solution to a modern crisis isn't always new. Sometimes it's ancient, sitting right under our feet, literally. So here's a question worth sitting with. If housing costs disappeared as a barrier tomorrow, what would you actually build? A small Earthbag studio in the backyard? An off-grid cabin in the mountains? A full family home with zero mortgage attached to it? Drop your answer in the comments. What would your next house look like, and where would you build it? And if this video gave you a new way to think about housing, hit subscribe because we're just getting started digging into methods like this one.